I'm Mikahelia. I'm one of the registered dietitians at Carrie's Diabetes team. And this is week 2 of the Healthy Plate part of the Healthy Movement, Healthy Plate group. Today I'm here to teach you about carbohydrate portion control. Here's the outline for today's lesson. First, we will review carbohydrates as nutrients. Then we will discuss the types of carbohydrates and their health benefits. We'll review food sources of each carbohydrate, talk about how to make sure you're getting enough and not too much of each one, and finally, we'll practice reading food labels to count carbohydrates. Then we will end our session by putting some of what we've learned to practice. Let's get started. As you may remember from last week, carbohydrates are one of the macronutrients. They are our body's preferred source of energy, and some of them can help reduce the risk of disease. They can be further categorized by their complexity and function. For simplicity's sake, let's start with the simplest of carbohydrates, sugars. There are a variety of sugars. What they each have in common is their building blocks. A chain of carbon molecules with hydroxide and hydrogen added in different places. Glucose, fructose, and galactose are sugars in their simplest forms. When we combine them, they make different kinds of sugars. Sucrose is found in fruit, and lactose is found in milk and milk products. So you see, these simple sugars can be found in a variety of foods, not just in pop, candies, cookies, or other pastries. When we eat sugars, our bodies break them down to be used as energy. Remember, for each gram of carbohydrate, there's 4 calories of energy. When we consume more than our bodies need, this can make our blood sugars high. Our bodies might also store the excess energy, and this can contribute to weight gain. Starches are much more like sugar than people realize. They are made from long chains of simple sugars, mostly glucose. But these chains of glucose are much longer than the simple sugars that we talked about earlier. They can be made from hundreds to thousands of glucose molecules. Some even have chains, which is why starches are complex carbohydrates. Because these molecules are so long, they take longer for our bodies to break them down into energy that lasts, which is ideal if you plan on being active. Food sources of starch include flour-based foods like chapati, tortilla, crackers, rice, noodles, waffles, pancakes, fried, steamed, or boiled dumplings. There's a huge variety. Then there are grains like amaranth, rice, barley, corn, quinoa, millet, bulgur. Then there are tubers and starchy fruit like potatoes, sweet potatoes, yam, cassava, plantains, green bananas, edos, dashins. Each of these foods are good. In fact, they include a variety of micronutrients. Remember, vitamins and minerals, such as B vitamins, potassium, zinc, phosphorus, magnesium, just to name a few. However, each of these starch molecules can break down into hundreds or thousands of glucose molecules. And if they're not being carried by insulin to be used by our cells as energy, we can end up with very high blood sugar levels. This is why portion control is so important. And finally, the last complex carbohydrate is fiber. It's different from sugars and starches because its sugars are bonded in a way that cannot be broken down by our bodies to be used as energy. This means that fiber will not raise your blood sugar levels. There are a variety of fibers, and they can be categorized as soluble or insoluble. There's soluble fiber, which can bind to water and form a gel to help absorb certain nutrients in our gut. On the other hand, there's insoluble fibers that can only be broken down a little bit. They ferment in our gut and help grow healthy gut bacteria. These two properties are what allow fiber to perform health benefits, such as increasing satiety, improving bowel movements, slowing down how quickly carbohydrate is absorbed to help regulate your blood sugar levels, lowering cholesterol and supporting heart health, and supporting our immune system at the level of our guts. Fiber is found in a variety of foods, including vegetables and fruit, whole grains, and legumes like lentils and beans. So how do you know if you're getting enough sugar, starch, or fiber? Well, people who are at risk or living with type 2 diabetes should limit the amount of sugar and starch they eat between 30 and 60 grams per meal, depending on your activity level or your size. So if you're a smaller or less active person, you would lean towards the 30 grams per meal. Or if you're larger or more active, you would lean towards the 60 grams per meal. On top of that, you need to consume a minimum of 35 grams of fiber per day. And we can achieve all of that by becoming aware of the foods that we're eating. Now, while we're talking about carbohydrate counting, you're going to hear me say the term available carbohydrates a lot. And what I'm referring to is the amount of starch and sugar that's in a food that can contribute to raising your blood sugar, since sugars raise your blood sugars. Starches break down into sugars, which can raise your blood sugars, but not fiber, because fiber doesn't break down and cannot raise your blood sugar levels. When looking at foods that come in a package, we start with the nutrient facts table. So let's take a look at a couple boxes of cereal. Step 1. Look at the serving size. It's not just a suggestion of how much you should have, it's just the portion that contains all the nutrients listed below. Step 2. Look for the total carbohydrate. This includes all the sugar, starch, and fiber. Step 3. Subtract the fiber from the total carbohydrate, since fiber is not an available carbohydrate. The difference equals the amount of both starch and sugar in that serving. We don't always eat foods that come in packages. For example, you might have that cereal with fruit. We can estimate the amount of carbohydrate that's in a food by using a guide, like the Diabetes Food Guide, which shows us which portions of foods offer 15 grams of available carbohydrate. But what does 15 grams of carbohydrate look like? It could look like 1 tablespoon of sugar or 3 teaspoons. It sounds like a lot, but our bodies need the energy. Between 30 and 60 grams per meal is appropriate. So let's compare a few by looking at the guide. 1 cup of milk, 2 cups of strawberries, 3 cups of popcorn, or 1/3 cup brown rice, white rice, or millet. Each provide 15 grams of available carbohydrate. This means that different foods have different amounts of sugar and starch. We can eat larger portions of certain foods, like strawberries, compared to others like pineapple, and get the same amount of available carbohydrate. Don't avoid a healthy food just because you can't eat as much of it. Remember, There's a variety of vitamins and minerals we can only get from eating a variety of foods, including things like mango, sweet potato, jackfruit, and yogurt in your meals and snacks, in appropriate portions to get all the nutrients your body needs to thrive. Other methods of portion control will be discussed in week 3. Now let's make something to eat. Today we are making breakfast by creating a breakfast pantry. Basically, that's all the ingredients you need to have on hand to always have a healthy and tasty breakfast available. This is also good practice in meal planning, which we will do more in week 6. If you're the type of person that doesn't enjoy eating the same thing every day, or if you have family members that have different tastes, make sure that you have a variety of foods for each category. First, start with some healthy grains or cereals. I prefer using whole grains bought in bulk. Here are some options. Manufactured cereal, make sure you read the nutrition facts table and do some carb counting to make sure you get the right one. So, for in this box of Shreddies, how much available carbohydrate is in a serving? That's right, 40 grams before adding milk or other toppings. Now it's time to add some proteins and healthy fats. I like adding these because they provide essential nutrients, help keep me feeling full so that I do not need to add as much carbohydrate, and they help balance the meal. We will talk more about balance next week. Here we have pumpkin seeds, walnuts, sesame seeds, and sunflower seeds. Now, if you recall, we do not count these as carbohydrate. And if you're not allergic, stock up on these when they're on sale. And if you have irritable bowel syndrome or disease, try the butter versions of these nuts and seeds. But if you're allergic to seeds and nuts, try adding more fiber to your breakfast or milk alternatives that are high in protein, like cottage cheese. Now let's add our milk and milk alternatives. Here we have plain yogurt, almond milk, and cow's milk. Remember that these are all sources of carbohydrate, so be sure to read the nutrition facts table to count your available carbohydrates. Finally, let's add some fruit. Use your diabetes food guide to estimate how much available carbohydrate you're getting from each one. variety of sugar-free flavors with cinnamon, vanilla, cardamom, balsamic, zest, or fresh herbs. The breakfast pantry allows you to create a variety of healthy and delicious breakfast meals. If you use your carbohydrate counting skills, you can estimate the amount that's in each bowl. Let's take a look.
The final step is to be mindful. Here's some combinations to try and see how you feel about them. Were they satisfying? Were you full? Did you enjoy them? Enjoy, and see you next week!